We got the Washington Commanders coming to town this weekend.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is another week, everybody, of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Matt Derry with you. We got a football game to talk about this weekend. Yes, the Washington Commanders, the 6th seed in the NFC, will come to Ford Field to take on your Detroit Leos. Saturday night, prime time, 8 o'clock on Fox. Kevin Burkhardt and the man running the Las Vegas Raiders, Tom Brady, will be on the call for Saturday night's divisional round showdown, as we have found out after last night's big Commandos win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just whom the Lions will play. And it's a Saturday night, 8 o'clock game on Fox. Welcome in. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. You're on Locked On Lions. Thanks to everybody who watches and listens daily, our everydayers. We appreciate all of you. Locked On Lions for tonight, as we were recording a little bit later today, is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the playoffs with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Got to give a shout out to one of our everydayers and a guy that has been with me since the 105.1 days, Mike Vanderpool. Yes, Heart of a Lions fan himself. If you've never watched the movie Heart of a Lions Fan, just Google it. Mike Vanderpool, my guy, interviewed me for a podcast that he does down in Toledo, and I posted it on my I posted a little video on my LinkedIn page. If you're on LinkedIn, check out Matt Derry on LinkedIn, and check that out when it comes out. I'll share it with everybody as well. Justin Rogers, Detroit Football Network, DFN, will join us tomorrow. Lions beat writer, of course, long time with the Detroit News. I knew Justin when he was at the Oakland Press covering the Pistons back in the day. He will join us on tomorrow's show. We'll have the crossover on Thursday and much, much more as we get into a football game. Lions had the weekend off. A lot of players were vacationing. I saw some picture on social media of Dan Skipper on a beach somewhere. Today, Amon-Ra St. Brown was at that bakery in Rochester. There was a line, I guess, wrapped around the building for 2.5 hours, all to see the cake of Amon-Ra standing on his head and all of that. So a lot going on, but now let's get into football. And what an ironic and kind of interesting showdown we're going to have Saturday night. Washington did their part last night, an impressive 23-20 victory in Tampa over the Bucs to be the lowest seed to advance, the 7th-seeded Green Bay Packers. Oh, Peter Bukowski's Packers. Nice performance in Philly, guys. Oh, my God. That was pathetic. So Lions draw the Commanders, and we talked about this a lot last week. We had Ross Tucker on the show as well, and he brought it up. If you were looking at a matchup that you wanted for the Lions, wouldn't it be Washington? Very inexperienced. Not a lot of guys that have been this deep into the playoffs. And a team, quite honestly, that over their last 5 wins that they've had have all been in the last possession. They needed a 10 seconds left Jayden Daniels touchdown to beat the Eagles a few weeks ago. They needed a couple of Zane Gonzalez's field goals, including last night. And by the way, it's still alive, folks. The Zane train, you know he's on the kicker list. Come on now. The Zane train. Zane Gonzalez was the 3rd kicker that the Lions had in Brad Holmes' first year. If you remember, they went into training camp with Randy Bullock and Matthew Wright. They got rid of both guys. Zane Gonzalez was kicking in the preseason for the Lions. Going into the regular season, it looked like he was going to be the guy. And then they picked up Austin Seibert after the Bengals had cut Seibert and got Bullock, ironically enough. And Gonzalez was let go. But he actually was on the practice squad, and then he got picked up. But the Zane train himself, Zane Gonzalez, who doinked in the game winner last night. And by the way, quick note on Zane Gonzalez that I was reading about today. What a cool story. If you watched last night, Mike Tirico of NBC, and we love Mike. Mike is a friend. I've known Mike for 30 years, going back to Syracuse. Mike was talking, and they were showing the video of Zane Gonzalez taking off his shoe, taking off his sock, messing with his socks and shoes a bunch of times. And Mike was saying, look at his routine as he's getting ready. And there were articles that came out today that referenced a 2021 article in the Charlotte Observer about Gonzalez when he was kicking for the Panthers. Zane Gonzalez has pretty severe OCD. And so he's constantly messing with his hair and he's not comfortable. And that's something that is obsessive compulsive disorder. My daughter has it. So to be able to see, and I sent the article to her, I told her to read it, to watch what Zane Gonzalez goes through to have to get himself comfortable. It was cool to see him kick that game winning field goal last night. So the Lions are drawing a Commanders team that's no slouch. All right. I just thought it would be, I think it's going to be very difficult for a Washington team to go into Tampa Bay the first week and win, which they did last night by 3. Again, their last 5 wins have all come in their last possession. And then now have to come to Detroit and play the Lions. And Vegas agrees because our friends at FanDuel have installed your Detroit Lions as an 8.5-point favorite in this football contest Saturday night at the corner of Brush and Adams. So 8.5-point favorite in a divisional playoff series is a pretty high spread. So Vegas believes the Lions are going to win by more than a touchdown. But here come the Commanders, and they've got a lot of Detroit ties. I'm going to refer to this all week as the Anthony Lynn revenge game. Yes, that's right. The Commanders running backs coach is none other than A. Lynn, the man demoted and fired in year 1 under Dan Campbell as offensive coordinator. If you remember 2021, the Lions were an absolute disaster offensively. Poor Jared Goff was getting his brains beat in. And, they were throwing the rock to Quintez Cephas and Tom Kennedy and everything else. And Anthony Lynn got demoted and then got fired. Dan Campbell was calling plays at the end of the 2021 season. Anthony Lynn is now with the Commanders as their running backs coach. So that's interesting. The assistant quarterbacks coach of the Commanders is none other than former Lions legend, David Blough. He of the practice squad last year, but years ago was taking snaps and playing in games for the Lions. Very popular, if you remember the Hard Knocks scene where Blough was cheering on his wife who was running in the Olympics. Love me some David Blough. I got news for you. If the Lions lose Ben Johnson and Mark Brunell, David Blough could come back to Detroit and be quarterbacks coach. He's just the assistant QB's coach now with the Commanders. Lance Newmark is the assistant general manager of the Commanders. Many believe there's a possibility that if Ben Johnson gets the Raiders job or maybe even the Jacksonville job, and they tell him to bring somebody from the front office with him, that he could bring Lance Newmark with him. So there's that angle. Mark Brunell, by the way, was the last Washington quarterback to win a road playoff game before last night. Kind of ironic. He was playing for the Redskins at that time. And if you also recall, you've got, I mentioned before, Zane Gonzalez, former Lion. Cornelius Lucas is on that team. Zach Ertz, former Lion, who played like one game for Detroit. And last year, Josh Harris, the new owner of the Redskins, Adam Peters, the new general manager, they wanted to interview Ben Johnson, got on the airplane to come interview Ben and Aaron Glenn, and Ben told them, I'm not talking to you guys when you get here. Sorry, I'm not interested. And so that caused a little bit of a stir. So there's a lot of angles here between Detroit and Washington in terms of this matchup. And I want to get into some specifics on the 2024 Commandos. And we will do that coming up next, as the Lions and Commanders will play Saturday night. The Sunday afternoon 3:00 game will be the Eagles. And at the time of recording right now, the winner of tonight's Rams-Vikings game that is taking place, of course, out in Arizona. Let's dive into a little bit of a Commanders football, shall we? We'll do that coming up next. There's 2 things that stand out for me that the Lions must pounce on. And we'll discuss that coming up next, right here on a Monday edition of Locked On Lions. But first, Locked On Lions brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Growing your small business in 2025 comes down to how well you can hire. And let's face it, better hires start with smarter insights. That's where LinkedIn comes in. The strongest hiring data available, LinkedIn helps you identify the right candidates, giving you the confidence to make the best decisions for your business. I've used LinkedIn Jobs myself, and I can tell you it's a game changer when it comes to hiring the right fit. It really is. You get connected with people, you talk to them, you have good conversations. It's great. Small businesses are wearing a lot of hats, so every hire is crucial. LinkedIn gets that. That's why they connect you with the best candidates using data you won't find anywhere else. From unique skills and interests to the connections you share, LinkedIn helps you find the right person for the job. In fact, 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high quality candidates. All right. Want to make the right hiring decision? Hop on LinkedIn. It's that simple. Hire smarter this year and find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. And hey, what about our friends at the old PrizePicks? Playoff time is here. If you're like me, you want to make the most out of these final weeks of football. That's where PrizePicks comes in. If you love football, you want a chance to win real money while watching the games, PrizePicks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports knowledge and opinions into cash while playing daily fantasy player projections. All right, with PrizePicks, all you got to do is this. You simply pick more than or less than on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns or whatever else for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or you want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it is clear that people love this platform. What about this weekend? Lions and Commanders. I think Jared Goff is going to throw more than 230 yards passing. You can get in on that. What about Saquon Barkley for more than one touchdown? You can get in on that. Here's a special offer for Locked On Lions listeners. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, everybody. We are back on Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network. On a Monday, Lions will take on the Washington Commanders. 12-win team during the regular season. 12-5, now 13 wins. Dan Quinn has done a great job with that team, and they got some pieces. I'm a big Scary Terry fan. Terry McLaurin, just a class dude. Zach Ertz at tight end. Bobby Wagner on defense. Marshawn Lattimore. Good football team. And now the Lions will face the Commanders this coming Saturday night, 8:00 on Fox. All right, here are two things that I see with Washington that the Lions can take advantage of. Number one, Dan Campbell said today, David Montgomery will be back. Coming back from that MCL injury. He's going to add some power to that running game. The Commanders during the regular season finished 30th in the league in run defense. Third worst run defense in the league. It's been better over the last few weeks. Their DVOA numbers are way better, but that's a run defense that struggles. And Deron Payne, if you watched last night's game, injured his finger. He's not going to be 100% going into this game. I'm not sure why Tampa Bay didn't run the football more with Bucky Irving last night. They didn't. They made some mistakes, obviously, the Baker Mayfield fumble and everything else. But you look at this game and you look at a key. The Lions should be able to run the football, especially at home, against the Commanders' defense that struggles against the run. That is number one. Number two, while the Commanders have Jayden Daniels, and he can move, and that dude is just an explosive play waiting to happen. Coach Campbell said today he's dangerous, and he is. He's been the best rookie quarterback of the lot. He's better than Caleb Williams. He's better than Bo Nix. He's been really good. Jayden Daniels, the Hail Mary against the Bears, the game-winning touchdown pass against the Eagles. This guy is going to win offensive rookie of the year. But Jayden Daniels has a problem. And that problem is left tackle Brandon Coleman. That dude sucks. He's struggling. He is not having a good time right now trying to block at left tackle. The Lions have got to attack him. The Lions have got to send some pressure that way to Jayden Daniels' blind side. Because if you watch last night's game, Yaya Diaby and others were just destroying this kid. So the tackle position has been a problem for the Commanders all year. Former line Cornelius Lucas has played a little bit there, but Coleman is a guy right now that the Lions have got to take advantage of and push around a little bit, because that's where you win the game. You still win the game up front, right? You still win the game up front. Philadelphia, and we'll get into some of the weekend games in a second, but Philadelphia beat Green Bay because they pushed the Packers around. Philly didn't have a great day throwing the football, and Green Bay had the turnover problems with Jordan Love. Jordan Love worth $60 million a year, but you went up front, and if the Lions can get after Daniels and a loud, raucous environment at Ford Field, and you got a shaky left tackle, it could be a long, long night for the Commanders. Again, they do a lot. Cliff Kingsbury, their offensive coordinator, is just like Ben Johnson, extremely creative, a lot of pre-snap motion. They went hurry up last night. They bring a lot of different players into the game. They've got 3 backs they use. They got a bunch of tight ends they use. They got a lot of different wide receivers that utilize 1 through 5. A lot of them you haven't even heard of. So an Austin Eckler is always dangerous coming out of the backfield. Shout out to the great Dean Wilking, Sterling Heights legend and father-in-law of Austin Eckler. Dean and his wife, they're thrilled that their son-in-law is coming to town to play against the Lions. But Eckler is dangerous out of that backfield. We certainly know that. But I think having Alex Anzalone healthy is going to be a huge bump up for this football team. Lions are going to be focused. You know that. They're going to be focused. They are ready for this. 2 wins, folks. Just get 2 home wins. Just win 2. And the Detroit Lions are going to the Super Bowl. Amazing. But focus is on Washington and nothing else. Dan Campbell was asked today about Super Bowl or bust, and he said, no. Our focus is on the Commanders. All right? Inexperienced team. Not a lot of guys that have been there before, like I said. We know Dan Quinn has been there. Super Bowl. Don't bring that up. Another Dan, but it's Dan against Dan this weekend. But it's a good football team. And they battle, and they play a lot of close games. So, very quickly on this weekend's games, I'm not going to be one that's going to get on this show and say, they got to do a better job with seeding. We need to reseed in the NFL playoffs. We need to change the format. We need to have the Vikings not as a 5 seed, blah, blah, blah. No. Look, the top of the top is better than the bottom of the bottom. We saw this. Philadelphia is better than Green Bay. Eagles should have won that game handily. They didn't because they couldn't throw the football. Buffalo manhandled Denver. I was wrong about that one, as was John Gruden. He thought the Broncos were going to stick around, and so did I. That did not end up happening. I don't know what happened to the Chargers and Justin Herbert. That was a bleep show. That was very uncharacteristic of a Jim Harbaugh team to get pimp slapped like that by the Texans. So that was certainly something I did not expect. And, the games weren't great by any stretch of the imagination, but, last night's game was excellent. Bucks and Commanders. It was very, very, it was interesting. I wouldn't say it was excellently played, but it was back and forth. It was entertaining, and that's what you want in watching the NFL playoffs. So, and Mike Evans, by the way, was eating Marshawn Lattimore's lunch all night. That dude, Mike Evans, is a stud. So if he's giving Lattimore fits, what do you think Amon-Ra J-Mo will do this weekend? I think those guys will do all right. for sure. That's I want to hold on. I had one other thing. Oh, coaching update. Let me do that coming up next. I mixed it up in terms of order. Quick update on what's going on with some of the Lions candidates. A new candidate has popped up as well for a job outside of Detroit. We'll tell you about that too. Coming up next right here on Locked On Lions. As always, folks, the Locked On Lions brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are just better with FanDuel. Tonight, Vikings, Rams, Matty Stafford. Oh, yeah. They're a 3-point underdog to Sam Darnold and the Vikings. Want to get on the action? You can do that at FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Go to the website, check it out for yourself, FanDuel.com. They've installed the Detroit Lions at 8.5-point favorites, over under something like 55 or 56. They expect some high scoring. They expect a high scoring affair Saturday night down at Ford Field. Go to FanDuel.com, join today, get started with $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so this was not one that I expected this past weekend, but reports started to come in that the San Francisco 49ers were talking to Lions assistant special teams coach Jet Modkins to be their special teams coordinator. Modkins, of course, works alongside Dave Phipp. We've already seen Deshae Townsend, Lions defensive backs coach, talking to the Niners. Hank Fraley, Lions O-line boss, talking to the Seahawks about their offensive coordinator position. Aaron Glenn interviewed with the Jets, Saints, Jags, Bears, and Raiders. Ben Johnson interviewed with the Patriots, now have hired Mike Vrabel, Raiders, Bears, and Jaguars as well. What's interesting about, first of all, Modkins is highly respected, highly liked in that room. And obviously that would be a step up for him to go from an assistant special teams coach to the real deal out in San Francisco. As far as what is interesting about right now, I am recording this at 6:42 on a Monday night. The Dallas Cowboys have tonight, if they want, to hurry up and get the Lions to give them permission to speak with Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. They must do that interview before the game ends tonight between the Vikings and the Rams, because then the Lions assistants are off limits. The Dallas Cowboys today mutually agreed to part ways with Mike McCarthy, and they're behind in their search for a head coach. But if they want to interview the Lions assistants, they can do so before the game ends tonight. I don't know if they will or they won't. We'll have to see. What is certainly interesting also about this weekend is that Tom Brady is going to be in town calling the Lions game on Fox. Now, the Lions could have been on ESPN. Lions could have been on NBC. ESPN and ABC is doing the Saturday afternoon game, Houston and Kansas City. Fox got our game Saturday night. NBC with Tirico and Collinsworth are doing the Eagles in the winner of tonight's game. And then the later game on Sunday, Ravens and Bills, is on CBS. But Tom Brady, who is currently Fox's number one NFL analyst, until he's not, is heavily involved with what the Raiders are doing right now. Heavily involved. And there's been tons of reports that Brady's interested in Ben Johnson. There's tons of reports that Brady is the one that pulled the trigger on GM Tom Telesco. And sure, if it could be ironic that Tom Brady, Lance Newmark, Commanders assistant GM, and Ben Johnson all could be in the same building, all will be in the same building on Saturday night. So, the league, I don't care. Okay. Brady's a professional. Ben Johnson's a pro. Lance Newmark. They're all professionals here. But it is going to be kind of interesting that Brady's going to have this kind of access. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, you're probably like, wait a minute. We want Ben Johnson. We can't just go to Ford Field with our people and pull Ben Johnson aside into a closet or a hallway and talk to him. But yet Tom Brady can be in the building Saturday, way before the game starts, be walking around and have a conversation with Ben Johnson. It is a little bit of a, I don't know. Look, Tom Brady's not supposed to have these meetings with, due to his involvement with the Raiders and being in these pre-production meetings, and he hasn't been all year, but give me a break here. It's just kind of ironic that they're all going to be in the building at the same time. Now, Ben Johnson will tell you, and I'm sure the coordinators will speak on Thursday. Aaron Glenn will say the same thing. They did their interviews. Now their sole focus is on the Lions getting the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, playing 3 more games here. Doesn't sound like Pittsburgh's getting rid of Mike Tomlin. Doesn't sound like the Bengals are getting rid of Zach Taylor. They fired their D coordinator. This could be these could be the openings here, and that's it. You add Dallas to the mix now. I saw Jason Witten's going to get an interview. I'm sure Kellen Moore, who's now the offensive coordinator with Philly, is going to get a sniff because, of course, he worked in Dallas, played in Dallas. I'm not so sure Ben Johnson would sign up for the circus that is the Cowboys. We'll have to wait and see. All right, Justin Rogers, Detroit Football Network. If you have not subscribed to Justin's work, you should. It is fantastic. You get a newsletter. You get all the news of the day every day right there in your email and on Substack if you're a Substack person. Justin is going to join the show tomorrow right here on Locked On Lions. This has been a Monday edition, Lions and Commanders. I like this matchup. I like Washington. I think they have a good team. Other than Jayden Daniels, I'm not wowed by that team. I think they're good. They're no slouch, and they don't go away. But I think it'll be a good matchup for Detroit. We'll talk more about it tomorrow with JR right here on Locked On Lions. Good to be back.